Yeah, and now I want to welcome Cassandra, the speaker of the night. Welcome, Cassandra.
Cassie, I'm an addict. This is Thanks very much for inviting me to share my experience, strength, and hope here on the Zoom meeting. I'm The thing I don't like most about Zoom is that I have to see myself, but I could put myself over there because, but I guess getting used to these Zoom meetings is what we have to do to stay clean. Um, so my clean date is September 27th, 2007, and I used drugs for a long time, and then I got clean. And a lot of things happened between that whole time. Um, uh, my life became completely unmanageable. I had no idea that I was powerless over anything. I thought that I was in control of everything, in control of my life, in control of other people's lives, in control of everything that happened. And so I started using at a young age, and it made me feel different because until I started working the program of Narcotics Anonymous, I never, um, I didn't like myself. And I didn't know that I didn't like myself because I was always loaded and I didn't ever think that long enough to try and figure out what I was feeling. Um, so I didn't go to any treatment. I didn't have any intention of going to treatment. Ooh, I Most of my using was done in another city than where I live, another state. I used in California, in San Francisco, and so there a lot of things happened. Um, a lot of things that now I realize are traumatic, but at the time it wasn't traumatic because it was just how life was in that in that in using and that's live to use and use to live. And like I said, I didn't know there was any way out. I do remember at one point in time holding my head in my hands and just saying, okay, so this is how I'm going to die, and there's no other way. I don't know any other way. And but God, I just have to say, God saved me. My God, my higher power is God. And you know, God doesn't save. Maybe God must save everybody in the way that they're supposed to be saved, I guess. But some of us get to Narcotics Anonymous, and some of us never do. Um, I don't really understand that piece when people say, when I hear some have to die. I can't remember how that goes. Some addicts have to die for us to be here. I don't understand that part, but I wish that every addict could find this program. I wish that every person who has so much pain inside themselves and who just uses drugs for their only way out could and would be able to find Narcotics Anonymous. Um, I had so when I was using, I had this boyfriend, and the only way I could see this boyfriend is if I met him at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And so I went to this meeting to meet him, and I heard this woman share, and I had never been to a meeting ever. Um, and I heard this woman shared she had just gotten released from prison, and she had lost her children, and her whole life had gone just downhill. She had been homeless. And I remember saying, that'll never happen to me. Like that's, like I was very self centered, very full of myself. And I remember thinking, oh, that's really too bad for you, but, that'll never happen to me. And that was in like 1999. And so I kept doing what I was doing. I got arrested. A lot of things happened. And I just kept using, and I never ever knew how to handle my feelings. Um, so what happened was I came here and I had a difficult time getting drugs. People said I looked like a cop, and so it was hard for me to get drugs. But of course, addicts like we are, we get drugs in any way. And I had had an open case, and I had hit my bottom, even though I didn't know at the time it was my bottom. But I wanted to die. I just wanted to die, but I wanted to take other people with me because I was so full of rage and so full of hate and just so full of all the negative emotions. And so I called this boyfriend in California and told him I was going to kill myself, but I was going to come there first and kill him. And then I called the cops and told them that the same thing. I was pretty nuts. And then the next thing I know, I'm in the FBI came and they arrested me, and I'm in prison. So it was really traumatic because in my head, I was just like, this can't be happening to me. This doesn't happen to people like me. I was like, this just happens to people who are, drudges of earth. Like I said, I was very, very egotistical. And so I got clean um, in the prison cell. And I wouldn't tell them that I was on drugs. I would, and I just, it was uh, a hard kick. It was a really hard kick. And um, but that was the last time I did drugs. And I met this woman in there who gave me the book for the AA. She gave me that AA book, and I started reading it because there was nothing else. I didn't know when I was going to get out. I didn't know what was going on. It was just really bad. And so, but she told me, she said, when you get out of here, you can go to a halfway house. And I said, what is that? And she said, it's a place that you can learn how to not use drugs and alcohol in your life. And so I had that stuck in my head. I wasn't allowed to go to any of the meetings. I had been put in solitary. And so I just kept reading that book, and I didn't really relate because I didn't think I wasn't, in my mind, I wasn't an alcoholic because alcohol wasn't my problem, but it was just drugs. So, and through NA, I learned alcohol is a drug, any mind altering chemical is a drug. And, we abstinence, we don't use drugs no matter what, no matter what. And I had had no hope. And that was another thing. I had had absolutely no hope. I do remember one piece of hope that I had, and I never heard this again until I was in Narcotics Anonymous. But so in 1998, our I had a fiance, and we had these friends, and these friends murdered him, and they murdered the cat. And I wanted to die. I had never had anything like that happen in my life. Um, and so I had gone and seen this doctor. Actually, it was a psychiatrist that I was going to see because he was giving me Xanax, and I couldn't live without that. But on the way home at the bus stop, this man appeared, and he was this short African American man in a long coat and a hat with an umbrella. And he said, hey, little girl, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not, and I just belted out what had happened. And then he said, I don't remember what else he said, but he had said that, just remember, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. And I remembered that in my head for so long. And then I heard it again when I came to Narcotics Anonymous. Um, and what I know now is that was God right there. That was God giving me that little bit of hope, like maybe my, my today is going to be a gift. So I held on to that. I got out of a lot of things happened. I got sentenced to prison. I was in prison. A man came in, said, "I'm your attorney. They're going to give you another chance." And I got out. And the deal was I had to come here to Arizona and go to a halfway house. So that's what I did. And at the halfway house, there were all of the fellowships. And like I said, I had seen the AA fellowship and I didn't really know much about NA. I hadn't used any drugs. I was trying to figure out who I was because I had no idea who I was. But in the halfway house, they had an NA meeting. And then when they read the first reading, our first reading, who is an addict? An addict is a man or woman whose life is controlled by drugs. And that was so simple. Like, here I am. I am a person whose life was controlled by drugs. Because, I had the choice. I could have gone out of that prison and just gone back to using. But again, my higher power put me in a place where I had this opportunity that I never had before. Maybe somebody had told me before I could go to treatment. I don't know. But at that time, I wasn't going to do anything that anybody else told me except me. And so that's how I was. And I wasn't kind and I wasn't nice. And I thought I knew what love was. And because my relationships were very, very, very violent, very tumultuous. And so I'm in the halfway house and I'm meeting other women who are working this program of recovery. And so the first thing is get a sponsor. Well, a woman came into the halfway house and her name was Jenny. And she had been to prison and she had a great life and she was real pretty. And they had said, attraction, not promotion, and look for somebody that has things that you want. And so I asked her to be my sponsor, and she was a good sponsor for right then. And she was involved in all the fellowships. So we would then go to outside meetings, and we would go to HA, and we would go to AA and CA and NA. And so the only place that I really felt that I connected was NA. And so that's what I realized after talking to other addicts, and this was a little further down the road, that I needed to pick a fellowship. I needed to pick a home. I needed to pick a place. And I had started going to this meeting at the VA, and it was an outside meeting. And I never felt comfortable anywhere. Let's put it that way. I did not feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel comfortable anywhere. I still am super insecure. I got that fear a lot of the times and low self-esteem, but it's getting better. It's getting a lot better. And sometimes I have periods of where I feel really good about myself. And that is as a direct result of being in Narcotics Anonymous. So I went to this outside meeting and I saw people there who had 10 years clean, 15, 20. And I thought there's absolutely, how does that happen? How does that ever happen? And I started saying, introducing myself to people and saying who I was and getting to know other people. And I met Danny Cole. I met him in the parking lot of the VA. He was standing talking to another addict one night, and I remember he had shared, and he had a whole bunch of clean time, and I could not even fathom even getting 5 years. 5 years for me was going to be, huge. which it is for a lot of us, even a year, even a day, even a day. So I talked to Danny, and he had on these Puma shoes, and I really liked his shoes, and I think he said something like, "If you stay clean, I'll get you a pair of these shoes," and we became friends, and we're still friends today. And Danny has, I've learned a lot from Danny and from a lot of my predecessors, but from Danny, and I learned how to reach out. I learned how to reach out when I wanted to use. I learned how to actually pick up the phone and call people and say, "Hey, I am not okay. I am not okay. I really don't feel good, and I don't want to. I've got this much time, and I don't want to use again." And there's people in this program who have been instrumental in helping me not pick up ever again. Well, up until this day, I don't have relapse as part of my story. When I got clean, that was it. That was it for me. So far up until today, I've not ever put anything into my body that is mind altering, and I owe that to God and to this fellowship. So I'm at that meeting, and I'm at the halfway house, and I get out of the halfway house, and I get a job at the bank, which was like really weird. But I get a job at the bank, and I'm working at this bank, and then when I had been using in Arizona, I had done some crimes here, um, and I didn't think a thing of it. I for some reason I never thought that that would ever come back because I'm clean now. My life is perfect. Nothing bad is going to happen. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm being kind. I'm trying to live by spiritual principles. I'm trying to learn what those spiritual principles are. Um, and then I get notice that I'm getting these charges against me from the state of Arizona, and that they want me to go back to prison for 9 years. And that was a really long time. And I thought, how could this possibly happen? I'm clean. This doesn't happen to clean people. And so what I did is I was put in touch with people who had gone back into prison clean. And I didn't think that ever happened, but it happens. Um, and so I created, well, I guess I did. I created this support group for myself because, what I have learned is that I can have a lot of people around me, and I can have friends, but I have to make that effort. I have to make the effort to be there and show up for other people and put myself out there. So um, what happened is I had never had a relationship with my mother, never, and ever. So I was beginning this relationship with my mom, and so she said, "I'm going to get you an attorney." And what she did is she paid for a lawyer, and I went to prison only for a year, which was, it was still really rough for me, but I got through. And my sponsor had said, well, maybe God wants you to carry the message behind the wall. And I said, well, maybe God wants to pick somebody else, because I was just like, I don't want to do it. But I did it. And what happened is there had been no NA meeting on the yard. My friends sent me books, and like all of our books, and a bunch of literature. And there we were able to start an NA meeting on the yard. And I don't know if it's still going today. I have a sponsor who now goes into the prison and takes meetings in there. So I know that there's women in there who are hearing the message of NA recovery, which just makes my heart sing, because it would have been a lot more difficult for me, I think, in there had I not had our fellowship and people who, were doing the deal while they were there. So I got out of there, and man, and then I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do, right? So it was hard. I was full of fear. And, I have always been said, and our literature says too, what's the, fear is the opposite of faith. So, I started understanding that I needed to have faith. And I started getting that as a direct result of working the NA steps. My first step, powerless over our addiction and our lives have become unmanageable. Well, powerless, I couldn't understand that for a really long time. Powerless, that I was powerless and that I needed to surrender in order to, um, surrender, but surrender to who and surrender what? Well, surrender to God. What I know now is that God, it guides my life. My higher power guides my life when I get out of the way and let that happen. And a lot of times I won't do that. I'm very stubborn, I'm judgmental. Um, what I did is I was able to, I changed sponsors, which was really beneficial for me. My sponsor before, my sponsor now, this is my third sponsor, but before my sponsor now was amazing. It's just we worked the steps, and I felt I didn't. I felt like I wanted more, but I didn't know how to get it. So I went and I talked to other women, and I learned that when you change sponsors, you let your current sponsor know that you're going to do that. And it was really difficult because it was you know, I'm a people pleaser. I didn't want anybody to feel hurt. I didn't want anybody to feel mad, anything like that. So, but I did that, and I asked my sponsor, who's my sponsor today, to sponsor me, and we began working steps. And the way that we work steps is so thorough, and so we work steps 1, 2, and 3, and I'm on my fourth step, and I've just started writing it. And what I've learned is, so I know that I'm powerless over everything, and that, like I said, God is in charge. But for me to continue to have that faith and believe inside that God has my back, that God has everything, that God makes all the decisions for me, I have to continue to create and nurture that connection. And so what I've learned is my home group is Open Heart. We're in a 11-step meditation meeting. Um, I didn't ever think that that would be my thing, meditation. And I've realized that that has helped me become closer to my higher power, helped me have deeper faith that no matter what happens, everything is going to be okay as long as I don't pick up, you know. Um, so that meditation, that prayer and meditation for me is just, I have to do that. I don't do it every day. I wish I could say that I did. What I do every day is I do pray. Um, I also find myself sometimes turning back into kind of a bitch. And I realize that's when I'm taking over my power again, right? I'm trying to just take it all over. So I live with my mom and my stepdad. They're in their 80s. And man, it's difficult sometimes because, so yesterday, my stepdad wanted me to fix the leather seat in his car. There was a rip. And he had this this kit that, I don't know, you got to heat stuff up, you got to put stuff in, you got to paint it, all this other kinds of stuff, right? And so he's saying, okay, we got to get this done now. And I don't have a job right now. I as of let's see, it's been like 2 weeks now that I don't have a job. Um, so which really made me think that I was worthless, and just a lot of negative emotions came in. So, but I get to be there to help my parents. So I got very annoyed, and I realized though, and I've heard this only from the only reason I can continue to do this. So my sponsor has said before, they're doing the best that they can. People that I think that I am annoyed with, even my parents, they're doing the best that they can. And so instead of getting impatient with him, I just stopped and I prayed, and I was able to be kind and tolerant and patient and loving. And I know that that's only because of Narcotics Anonymous, and it's only because I've learned that here, because I actually do this work. For a while I kind of sloughed off. I wasn't doing any steps. I was just going to meetings. I had service commitment. Um, let's see. I didn't have any sponsees or anything like that. Um, and I didn't feel as serene as I had when I was doing all those things. And I kind of knew inside what I was doing, and I had a friend who decided to no longer attend Narcotics Anonymous meetings. In my mind, thought, oh, maybe I could just do that, right? Well, I'm glad that my higher power stepped in and made me realize that no, I can't do that. I need to continue and to connect with all of us, all you guys. That's what it is. Power's in the group, right? And so um, I know that it was like a spiritual type of awakening for me. So what I did is I started doing the next right thing. I started to just do what we're supposed to do. And I continued to stay clean. Now I think that my program is pretty strong. I used to not even be able to ever say that because that makes me feel confident, and that's something for me that is unfamiliar. I'm really familiar with those negative thoughts, that negative self-talk, blah blah blah, like that. But I'm not familiar with recognizing my good things about myself. So Narcotics Anonymous has brought me freedom from inside myself. I had that pain deep inside for a super long time, long time, probably all my life, that no kind of Band-Aid or medication could fix except drugs, because that made the pain go away temporary. But at about 3 years clean, I felt that subsiding, and I would question all of that. I would question, like, oh no, that must be some type of coincidence. That it couldn't really be God working in my life. Now, with 12 years clean, I no longer question those kind of things. I know that that's my higher power. I know that that is God for me. And also, I know that I am loved. And that was a difficult thing for me. I still go through fear. One of our predecessors, who's no longer alive, he would say, so what would you do if you weren't afraid? And now I think about that too, So he would say, Cassie, so what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I said, well, I would just do it. And he said, well, there you go. So I learned things from everyone. I'm working on acceptance right now. And I think I'm getting pretty good at it, actually. Something I never thought would happen. Let's see. Like I said, I don't have a job. I got pretty upset when I was let go from my job, but my higher power's got something in store for me that I don't know. So I need to just continue to put one foot in front of the other, continue to do the next right thing, keep going to meetings, even if they're Zoom, but now I can go to your meeting, here, I could always go to your meeting. And then, stay connected, continue to work steps, be of service, and just stay here. A day clean is a day one. And in the beginning, well, even now people say stick with the winners. I couldn't really figure out who the winners were, but I know who the winners are now. And that's all of us, So that's really all I have. I'm going to be done. Okay. Is that good? Is that no? Okay.
Thank you so much.